What's up, guys? Ralph Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you sort of a different kind of video where I'm not going to be playing a game. I probably won't have gameplay in the background either. But what it's going to be is that's actually going to be me talking about the NHL. And as you guys know, I'm a huge Islander fan. I've been an Islander fan my whole life, and I wanted to talk about the Moulson Vanek trade that happened recently, which was Matt Moulson, our first from this year, and our second from next year for Thomas Vanek of the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm going to be talking about my thoughts, opinions, and all the other fun stuff. So let's just start off with the trade itself. Moulson and Vanek are both unrestricted free agents at the end of this year. Now, if the Moulson would have stayed on the Islanders, this wouldn't even be an issue. Moulson would have re-signed. It would have been completely fine. There would have been no doubt in anyone's mind that Moulson is going to sign with the Islanders. Because let's be real here, the Islanders are the only team that's ever really given him a chance. But trading Moulson for Vanek, that leaves the door open. If whether or not Thomas Vanek resigns, I think has a lot to do with the team this year. If the team struggles, right now we're third in the division. The Rangers are 1 point behind us, and we have equal games played. If the team struggles and a team misses the playoffs, Vanek's out of here. There's no way I think Vanek resigns with the team if the Islanders are struggling, unless John Tavares or Michael Grabner, because Grabner is Austrian, Vanek's Austrian. There's not a whole lot of Austrians in the league. Unless one of those two can convince him to stay, if the team struggles, I think Vanek's out, and I think he's going to go to another team that is a little bit more guaranteed to make the playoffs. Now, if any Minnesota fan thinks that Vanek is leaving the Islanders for Minnesota, regardless of what happens, you're out of your mind. Let's be real here. Minnesota does not have the cap to sign Vanek, and not everyone is a Zach Parise. Not everyone's just like, oh, screw the rest of the league, I'm going home. I'm not saying it's not a possibility that Vanek will go to Minnesota, but if any Minnesota fan right now is sitting here thinking, oh yeah, the Islanders could even win the cup and Vanek's going to Minnesota, no, you're out of your mind. Moulson with the Sabres, it's the same thing. I don't know if Moulson is going to want to sign with the Sabres. Moulson has been on the Islanders for pretty much his entire career, except for the Kings, where he played a couple games. And that's just it. Moulson has only known the Islanders, really. And the Islanders last year just took a big step, and we made the playoffs. So I don't know if Moulson at age 29 is going to want to stick around with the Buffalo Sabres team that is clearly rebuilding. And that brings me to my next point of the trade. It does not fill a need for either team. The Islanders were scoring enough goals. They were top 10 in the league for scoring out of the gate. It was completely fine. Scoring goals was not an issue. Franz Nielsen stepped up big this year. He's leading the team in points. John Tavares is good as ever. Posto's doing his part. So scoring wasn't an issue. The big issue was goaltending and defense. The defense outside of Hamonic, Amac, and Vishnofsky was marginal. It was below average at best. Straight, Hickey, Karkner, they weren't getting it done. Donovan, I'm going to give a pass on because Donovan, this is his first year in the National Hockey League. He's played pretty well. I'll give him that. Honestly, I don't think Donovan's played horrible. I think Donovan's played pretty well considering he is a rookie, and he's been getting, like top 4 minutes, straight out of the gate. So, Amac, Hamonic, and Vishnofsky are playing really well, and Donovan was doing his role. Straight, Hickey, and Karkner are just awful, right? So we're basically playing with half a defensive core. And, Evgeny Nabokov was not helping. Even Kevin Poulin, against the game against Chicago, he played pretty well. The 3 goals were pretty much goals he should not have stopped, and he didn't. Like a cross crease. But, against the Flyers, he just fell apart. Poulin just completely fell apart. That was his game to win, and he lost it, But Nabokov has not helped the Islanders' cause this year. I'm not going to say Nabokov has been doing horrible, but he's been playing below average. Out of the gate, he looked strong on opening night, and he looked strong in the next game. But the major thing that Evgeny Nabokov has had problems this year was rebound control. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. But, any shot that basically doesn't hit his pads and die is a rebound. If it hits his chest, a lot of teams are shooting high. A lot of teams are aiming for the crest on his chest, which he should be able to hold and smother. Any goalie can do that. Ryan Miller, Henrik Lundqvist. Even a guy, that people will just think is average, like, Brian Elliott, he's going to smother that puck. So I don't know why Nabby can't smother the puck. They're shooting it up high on him, and it's just popping out for the rebound. So his rebound control is not where it needs to be. Um, Currently, he holds a 4-3-3 record with a .906 and a 2.84. That's not good enough. So defense and goaltending is the major issue on Islanders' part. So acquiring Vanek doesn't help. You know, I'm not saying Vanek's a bad player. Vanek is a great player. He really can be, and I think him and John Tavares can do some work together in this league. But that wasn't a need the Islanders had. So to satisfy a need the Islanders don't have is ridiculous. And the Buffalo Sabres are a rebuilding team, so the first and the second definitely helps them. But why does Buffalo need a 30-year-old Matt Moulson? They don't. They really don't. So I don't understand the first and the second. And I guess Darcy Dreger wanted to make sure, or whoever the GM over in Buffalo is, I guess he wanted to make sure he didn't get, ripped off in a trade. Because Matt Moulson is a pretty good player. I mean, he has like 3 straight 30-goal seasons coming up. Well, besides last season, but I don't really count last season for any streaks because the the lockout and then the inebriated season, not inebriated, that's drunk. The shortened season that really threw things out of whack. So, before that he had 3 straight 30-goal seasons, and so Molson's a good player, but it just doesn't make sense for Buffalo to take him. Buffalo's a rebuilding team, and he's 30 years old, so. The trade outside of the draft picks for Buffalo doesn't really satisfy a need either team has. So, to me, I would honestly have preferred if the trade did not go through, unless it was something different. If it was Ryan Miller for, obviously I wouldn't do Ryan Miller straight up for Matt Moulson the first and the second, but if it was like Miller and DeHaan or some other prospect and the first and the second, or Miller for DeHaan, a first and a second, I think that would be a lot more worth it to the Buffalo Sabres because they're getting a prospect and 2 draft picks, right? So if it was Miller in the trade, and Miller with his NTC, if he agreed to come to the island, that trade would make a lot more sense for the team than getting Vanek. Or if it was something along the lines of, I don't know, like Tyler Myers for a first and a second, then that would make a lot of sense too because we need defense, right? So the trade doesn't satisfy a need that either team has, and it hasn't worked out for the Islanders. I mean, it's only been 1 game. I can't get too mad about that. The Tavares and Vanek will need time. I think they should throw Tavares, Vanek, and Grabner on the first line just to see what they could do together. Maybe Grabner and Vanek can really hit it up with the Austrian connection. But yeah. So how I'm feeling about the trade right now, I'm regretting that it went through because Vanek's not a bad player, don't get me wrong, but that's 2 draft picks. I mean, the Islanders are loaded with prospects, so we don't really need the draft picks necessarily, but, it's 2 draft picks and our first liner. We basically swapped the first liner for a first liner and added in 2 draft picks, so hopefully the team needs to pick it up and get it together now. I made a little analysis. If the Buffalo Sabres right now, I'm calling a trade, an even trade, but it really matters what the implications are. So the Buffalo Sabres will win a trade if Thomas Vanek doesn't resign. And that's just anything. If Moulson doesn't resign and their 2 draft picks turn out to be crap, it doesn't matter. They still got 2 draft picks and Moulson, who even if he doesn't resign, they basically got 2 draft picks for nothing. They didn't have to give anything away because Vanek didn't resign with the Islanders. That means the Islanders literally just handed away 2 draft picks. So if Vanek doesn't resign with the Islanders, then the Buffalo Sabres will have won the trade, regardless of what happens. Except, if the Islanders win the Stanley Cup, then obviously the Islanders will have won the trade, even if Vanek doesn't resign. But unless the Islanders win a cup and Vanek doesn't resign, then the Sabres won that trade. If Vanek signs for less than 3 years and Moulson signs for long term, I still think the Buffalo Sabres will have won that trade. And, if the Islanders miss the playoffs, then obviously the Sabres won the trade because the Islanders didn't get what they needed. I think the Islanders will have won the trade, obviously, if they won a Stanley Cup. If Vanek signs long-term 3+ years, and that's really it. That's the catch. If Vanek signs 3+ years and the Islanders make the playoffs and get to at least the second round, the Islanders will have won the trade, in my opinion, because we got what we needed. We got a guy who's going to sign long term, and we made it farther in the playoffs than we did last year. So that's what will happen. The trade will be even if Vanek and Moulson both re-sign for less than 3 years. Or no, Vanek signs for less than 3 years, but Moulson. Oh, sorry. If Vanek resigns long term and Moulson resigns long term, then I think it will be an even trade. So hopefully the Islanders can pick it up. We're in third in division, but we've been struggling lately, so we need to pick up those critical points at the early point of the season. I really hope Vanek will provide a lot of goals for the team, a lot of points, and I really hope Vanek signs long term. Hopefully, even if in the middle of the year, if he just signs a contract extension. But that's my take on a trade. A little hint for you guys, my new series coming up. It's going to be a Let's Play. It's not going to be of Oblivion, don't worry. My last two Oblivion Let's Plays that I've tried, the memory has been corrupted on, so I think it's something to do with my game. That just bugs out whenever I try to make a new memory. So it's not going to be Oblivion. It'll be a very popular detective game. And I'll leave the hint at that, but I'll see you guys next time.